Here.
Usual readers. Can you do the pledge first?
Of course, of course.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Murder.
You start with murder today, yes.
Yeah, okay. 746. Is murder a crime in God's eyes? Yes, and a serious one. When individuals take the life of their fellow human beings, they cut short an atonement or a mission that the victim was going through in their present incarnation, and that is an atrocious act. 747.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's stop here. Thank you, Paco.
Okay.
So let's define or give the concept of murder is the killing of another human being. Not to go into any other possibilities, because if you go throughout killing a head of lettuce, yeah, you pick up a head of lettuce and you kill a tree. Okay, is it killing? Yeah. In theory, no. Yes, it is. But let's be limited here, talking about human beings in this particular talk. And we are in the law of instructions. And Kardec fitted the concept of murder in this law of destruction. So, and we spoke right in the beginning of it, that the law of destruction applies most to the physical world, the material things, because there are three things in the world, right? There is God, there is the spirit, and there is matter. Well, God and the spirit cannot be destroyed. God is God, and we, the spirit, we are eternal, right? So, of course, the law of destruction is an application of things pertaining to matter. So, a murder over here will be the destruction, since the law of destruction, of the human body. Why is it a crime? Because along the way, when you do that, you are also destroying a plan. You are destroying the opportunity of a spirit to come here and fulfill its plan for that reincarnation. So in matters of killing, of destroying that, or stopping that reincarnation, it is up to God. We are destroying something that does not belong to us. We spoke that about suicide, gonna go back that later, right? But when you destroy, when you kill someone else, you are actually invading the right of someone else to fulfill that plan, and that's a severe crime. Any questions, comment? All right, next.
Okay. 747. Are all murderers equally evil? God is fair. God judges the intention rather than just the deed. Wow.
Okay, so that's fair. He judges the intentions rather than just the deed. And we can expect that even in our very perfect society, in our very perfect system of laws, there is a large scale in the classification of murder, right? There is murder that is, let's say, a first-degree murder that is premeditated, that you think about, that you plan, that you have plenty of time not to do it, and you choose to do it. And there's the murder that, somebody just triggers you at a moment that you are very vulnerable and you start thinking, you act in violence and someone dies. It is murder, yes, but even our law, you not judge both cases equally. And God, as we always say, and by God is saying that the system of law takes everything into account. Everything into account. Starting the most important with the intention. Was that the intention to act as the individual act? Was the individual aware of the consequence of that act? You take even consideration culture. You take into consideration the circumstances of life of that individual, of both individuals. Everything is taken into consideration. But primarily, the intention. That's the most important factor, was the intention to destroy a life. And it's the intention of to destroy a life with what purpose? What is your objective by destroying that life? So everything's taken into consideration. God is fair. And that's the problem of us. We have to make our judgment here in our life. We have to protect society. We have to have a system that protects us and put those who are ill-intended out of commission. Put them away from society to prevent them from causing more harm. And we do the best possible judgment that we can, ideally at least, right? Ideally at least. But with the divine laws, the system is perfect. And you take absolutely everything into consideration. And with the topic of intention, also need to think about it here is we can fool others. We cannot fool ourselves, our conscience. And our conscience declares us. And we are absolutely transparent with the higher spirits. So we can even try to fool ourselves, but we cannot fool our conscience, and we cannot fool more elevated spirits because we are absolutely transparent to them. And we see that even in our mediumship meetings here. The spirits are really unable to keep up with the fake news. Eventually, the truth comes out in our conversation because their conscience is an open book for the higher spirits.
Wow.
All right. Next.
Okay. 748. Does God excuse murder in legitimate cases of self-defense? Only absolute necessity can excuse it. If you can only save your own life by taking that of your attacker, you should do it. Wow.
So in case of self-defense, is that okay for you to murder someone else? In case of absolute necessity, and you have to put emphasis on the word absolute. Was it absolutely necessary? If yes, yes, then it becomes not only an option, but it becomes a duty for the way the Spirit puts over here. If you can only save your own life, by taking that of your attacker, you should do it. Okay? It's not so that you can do it. You have an option to do it. It's saying it's very specific. You should do it. Okay, and that is in accordance with the laws that you already spoke, the law of self-preservation, right? That's a law. So someone attacks you, and then you have to be very careful the word attacker. Someone attacks you, right? Then it becomes a case in which you should defend yourself. And if the only way that you can defend yourself is by taking someone else's life of the attacker, it is justifiable. Okay? Naturally, we go again back to intention. What's really necessary, what's really absolutely necessary, what did you use an opportunity to create a situation with? It seems to be an absolute necessity. And again, you may fool the laws in the land, but you're not going to fool our own conscience. Another thing to think is to define an attacker here, right? Is the attacker the one that attacks you physically at that moment? I'm not saying what it is, each one of you think about it. There was a case recently that I heard in the radio That was this individual who he had a criminal past. He did his time in prison. He was a recovered individual. He was living a good life for a few years already. And he started a relationship with a woman. It so happened that that woman was the ex of a present criminal, someone who was being actually wanted by the police for murder, actually. And this individual, this present criminal, swear they would kill this recovered criminal who was now in a relationship with his ex. This criminal went to this guy's house. There was nobody in the house, but just to make sure they would not, lose the trip, he shut the windows and doors a couple of times, went home and put on his uh, social media that was going to kill that individual, that has nothing to lose, that now his life is already gone, and now he had killed before, and all kinds of things. So this recovered criminal went after the guy who promised to kill him and killed him. He went to his lawyer right after it, and he and his lawyer went to the police, gave him the gun, and said, I killed him in legitimate defense. I had to do it or I was going to be killed, and presented everything there. He was put in jail. I don't know what was the result of it. And I myself struggle with this. Is that considered legitimate defense? Was that the seriousness of the threat of this individual, who is a criminal, who is a murderer, who was wanted by the police by murder, justifies make that the case of an absolute necessity, an absolute legitimate defense? I think each one will have. I can understand both sides. I'm right on top of the wall over here. If anyone says A or B, I totally agree because I don't know which side I would go. Knowing what I know, perhaps if you, as a juror, and you sit over there and you listen more, you take one side or another. I would take on one side or another. But right now, I really struggle if that could be considered a self-defense. And I understand both cases, if one wants to defend the case, yes, was self-defense, and that was to say no, was not, I understand both sides. I just don't know myself which side I take.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Does it state whether the recovered criminal went to get like a court order of protection against this guy? And did he take it?
He was already wanted. He was already a fugitive of the law. The police was already going after him because of murder. So there is many things that are why if you knew what he was, why do the police are there? There's all things that you can. But that's what I'm saying, taking into circumstances. This guy is a previous criminal. This guy is the one who knows the crimes, knows the life of the crime. It's so many things to take into consideration that, yeah, you want to live well. Why didn't you go to the police and say, I know where he is and he's threatening me, let's go get him, right?
Protection.
Yeah, and then later on we're gonna get in the topic of dueling. Is that one the case of dueling? The pride takes over reasoning. So many things to be considered. But my point is that the word attacker here, what do you call the attacker? The one who at that moment breaks into your home with a gun and comes after. That's the only situation to be considered an attacker. And I personally think that there's other consideration to be taken. What is an attacker or not? And what I'm trying to do is expanding all all the circumstances, everything that will be taken into consideration. Okay, even us here doing the discussion, taking everything into consideration, divine law to take everything into consideration to come to conclusion that that was an absolute necessity. That was an absolute case of legitimate self-defense. For us, it's very difficult, if not impossible. Actually, I think it's impossible for us to reach that conclusion. But it's clear here by the spirits.
And the bad guy probably could have been saying, I'm gonna do this to him, do that, and then do nothing.
Yeah, all the things is possible, right? All the things are possible.
Yeah.
But I'm just putting out here to see how not easy it is. It is not
Exactly.
black and white. There is a big gray, and it's sometimes a very big gray area for us to try to decipher things.
Yeah. Last Thursday, I crossed Madison Avenue, right at the corner. I mean, an hour before, at the same corner, that guy started shooting at some police. He didn't know. I mean, the news said that the shooter didn't know that there were police. Then the police killed him. That was clearly a legitimate defense.
Mine was clearly a self-defense.
Self-defense.
Absolutely. And
Yeah, this
absolute
was
self-defense.
Same corner I walked an hour earlier. Anyway, yeah, so, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. So okay, but according to the spirits, self-defense is more than an option. It's something that you should do. You should try to preserve your life. And if it's the only possibility, is to eliminate the life of the attacker, yes, it is justifiable.
Seven, yeah. 749?
Yes.
749. Are people accountable for the murders they commit during times of war? Not when they are forced to fight, but they are still accountable for the cruelties they commit and will be rewarded for their mercy. And guys, they try and tell me in English.
Okay, so
Tell me in English, yeah.
yeah, we did the top of we covered the top of war already, and we understood then that when there is a war, the soldiers are in the battle, they are basically in a state of perpetual self-defense while they are in battle, or you kill them, basically. So you are there to do a duty that somebody designated to you, right? So no, you are not be condemned for any murder or any killing that you do during war. Not taken into consideration here, but this war is not fair. The team, the other country attacked. They are small. We're not taking those responsible for the wars. Those to be responsible to create a war that was unfair, unjust, unnecessary. Those things. Then you have to deal with the divine laws, and then you have to deal with the responsibility of exposing those soldiers to unnecessary war. But the soldiers themselves in the battle, they need to kill to survive. They need to perform a duty, right? And I was also thinking about the word forced to, forced to fight. We can think of forced to fight because the government recruited you, the military recruits you, and you have to do it. You don't have an option if you belong to that country, and that's range of age or whatever, they catch you and you have to do, that's one way. But I'm thinking also expanding the word forced over here in a case in which a group attacks, invades your tribe, attacks, invade your community, attacks, invade your country, and now you are forced to defend yourself. So I'm just trying to expand this definition of force because you always think of the military come and say you have to serve, you have to go to war. And expand it to the necessity at sometimes because we live in this world where evil predominates over good, that you may be forced to be in the position that you have to fight, that you have to partake in a war. And if you partake in a war, again, you are in a perpetual state of self-defense while you are in the battlefield. Or you kill or you die. That is justifiable. Those who cause unnecessary wars, those who place young men and women on the battlefield unnecessarily, they will have to deal with the consequences of their decisions. Okay?
I have a question.
Sure.
Can you expand on that? Because I understand that they're forced to fight. So it's basically like before, you should do it if it's self-defense. But what about this word here, cruelties? What are they referring to? That going beyond? Yeah, expand on that.
Yeah, thank you, Paco. There is a war going on between side A and side B. You know, tribe A or tribe B, or country A or country B. And you and I from side A capture a soldier from side B. And I tie him up and I start to cause unnecessary suffering to that, torture, painful torture, or we're gonna deal with cruelty soon, or I attack a village of the other side and go after all the young kids and destroy all the young kids who are defenseless that cannot defend themselves. That is cruelty. And that is not justifiable in any circumstances, not even in case of war. So even in cases of war, there are rules. Even in our world, there are rules. And you see the United Nations screaming bloody hell that some country, like say, Rome is committing cruelty, right? It's being inhumane. It's not following the directions of war,
The directives, yeah.
right?
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Goes to deaf ears, and people say, but no action is taken. But those who are committed, soldiers, and of course the high ranks, cruelty going beyond the necessity of killing in the war, they have to be responsible for that. And on the other hand, the other way around. When they say here, and there will be reward for their mercy. There is a situation with, but again, I mean, I capture now a soldier from the other side, and I see that the soldier is basically harmless. I don't need to kill that individual. I can just, put them in a prison, wait until the war is over, and let them go back to his thing. If I are able to do that, I'll be rewarded for that as well. Having mercy, not killing unnecessarily. That will also be rewarded. Or if I attack that tribe, that land of the other side, and I see all the young kids over there defenseless, and I share my meal with them. They are the enemy, but they are in a state of famine. And if they don't get any food in a few hours, they will die of starvation. I provide food for them. That is mercy. That will be rewarded. Just because I'm in war with the soldiers of that other side, I could still have compassion towards those who are defenseless. That is mercy. That will be rewarded. So even in war, you can be cruel, unnecessarily killing, unnecessarily torturing, all kinds of things. But it can also be merciful, even during war. And there are rules for wars these days, right? Like investment, but unfortunately it goes into deaf ears that what being reported, the powerful individuals who could take actions doesn't do anything about it.
Yeah, and the Nuremberg trial, that's concrete evidence that cruelties were committed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Nuremberg trial.
The amount of cruelty that, I mean, one of the reasons I stopped listening to BBC for quite some time and just come back now is because all the news of the absolute cruelty in some parts of the world, it was getting to me. It was too much. Absolutely unnecessary. And you see that intention, it's really to humiliate, it's really to cause pain, it's to is absolutely barbaric. That it's hard to imagine that 2025, 2000
I know.
years post Christ, there's still that state of animality amongst us.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, please.
750. Which is worse in God's eyes, parricide or infanticide? They're equally horrific because any crime is a crime.
Okay, so parricide is the killing of your parents
Of
or
a parent.
close relative, right? If it's patricide, kill of a father, matricide, kill of a mother, right? And infanticide, killing of newborns up to 1 year. So according to the law, up to 1 year is infanticide. Okay.
Uh, I
And
have
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
I have to okay. Parricide is horrific. Okay, according to this. But I'm thinking about remember the ones it's in California, I think it's the Melendez brothers. Remember that they killed both parents?
Yeah, yeah,
And they claimed that they were subject to sexual abuse by the father.
right.
Now, I could say that's self-defense.
Yes, and that's what I believe the lawyers, the defense argue as well, right?
Yes.
Defense. Self-defense, not necessarily physically, but emotional, intellectual, all kinds of things, right? And again, those are those cases that there's a lot of room for discussion. And
Yes. A
sure,
gray area, like you said, gray area.
yeah, there are people you take either sides and you have justification to take that side. But again, the truth, they know. The true intentions, they know. And they are again transparent to the higher spirits. If they have anything to adjust the divine laws, they will do. They may escape our human laws because it's imperfect, but no one will escape divine justice.
Go ahead.
So yeah, so the thing is both are equally horrific because a crime is a crime. A crime is a crime. I I I do understand, especially when it comes to infanticide, we feel more emotional about it and this thing. But if you think, well, it's a newborn that didn't even start anything yet, didn't have a plan yet. You kill your parents, the ones who provides, and you read the Spirit's book, and the chapter that deals with what's the word? Ingratitude. When into the chapter that spirits that we ingratitude and ingratitude of offspring to their parents is in that book. You see that it's pretty severe crime, and someone who goes and kill their own parents is a horrific crime. But the spirits are telling us a crime is a crime. Is again it's a destruction of a life, a destruction of something that does not belong to you. It doesn't telling us really one is worse than other. I think we all have our emotional position to one or another side. But again, it's equally horrific according to the spirits. 61.
Okay.
Roger.
How can infanticide exist in intellectually advanced nations and even be allowed by the laws. Intellectual development is not always accompanied by moral integrity. A superior spirit may advance in intelligence and remain wicked. This is what happens when a spirit lives for a long time without improving.
When I think of infanticide as a barbaric crime, but it's being used just about every civilization. It was not considered a crime in some civilizations and groups. Today, it's a crime everywhere, but it is still somewhere in some parts of the world today, it is a crime. It is illegal, but it's still kind of tolerated. I'm not making, it's like some states in the United States in which the consumption of cannabis or marijuana is illegal, but everybody's doing it, and the law is pretending not to see it, right? I'm not making a comparison. Infanticide is as equal crime as smoking pot. Okay, I'm just say the example of there is a crime is being committed, but the authorities kind of have a blind eye to it. There are some parts of the world that it still happens, and they can't take this blind eyes to it because unfortunately, it's a means of population control. It's a cause, unfortunately, of gender preference. We don't want to have this gender, so we're going to eliminate these ones. It's still a crime, even in those societies, but unfortunately, the authorities kind of have a blind eye to it. So for us, we think it's absolutely barbaric and acceptable thing, but it does happen. And at one point, it happened quite a lot. At one point, it happens, if you go out, old civilization, on the easy ways that it was done, that the newborn was born, it just left where it was to be destroyed by the environment or eaten by animals or anything like that. During the Roman time, there was a tremendous amount of genocide, of infanticide among the Romans. It's not something that we see is completely barbaric, but it's something that happened a lot, and it does happen. And why does it happen? Because intellectual development is not always accompanied by moral integrity. So we make our calculations over here and we say, if you have more boys and girls, the boys will go in the field and they work for us. They're going to be soldiers that go the war towards, and the girls are just going to be consumption of energies, and the girls are just producing whatever, right? So let's have more boys than girls, and if you have girls, we're going to eliminate them. Or the population is growing so fast, you don't have food for everybody, we're going to have to control this, since you don't have any other means of birth control, and people will not stop making babies. When the babies come out, we eliminate them. Sounds absolutely cruel, barbaric, and it is, but unfortunately, it did happen quite often, and unfortunately, it still happens today. And if you read it, you work for the United Nations, and I'm sure you have reports of this happening in some parts of the world today, unfortunately, because we put the intellectual above it. You reason and you find a justification to commit a crime. And the justification is just as criminal as the act itself. But unfortunately, because the moral values and according to the teachings of Jesus are not there, so those reasonings, those intellectual ability overtakes the moral aspect, because we're still more animal than spiritual yet.
Yeah, I just remember two examples. One is in the book Renunciation, when a servant, I don't remember the family, but the servant had a child, and the child was born with some physical disability. And because it was born with physical disability, could not grow to be another servant or slave. So he had to be eliminated. Then Alcyone came and grabbed the child and took care of the boy. And also, the Greeks, I think they used to eliminate the girls because the boys will grow to be soldiers and
Yeah.
warriors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially about among the
Yeah.
Spartan, or no, the
Yeah.
warriors. At age 4, the boys would belong to the state or
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
And also, the infanticide here, can we read as a abortion?
No,
No.
newborn to about up to a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. About, it's already a newborn, yes.
Okay. So abortion is a different story.
Abortion is different stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, those are newborns to a year old is about something.
Okay.
And that's the types of cruelty that we have today, that individuals are not access to birth control. They're not going to stop making babies. Okay. They come the pseudo moralists. They say no, birth control is wrong, but then baby comes in, now you cannot abort, but then you cannot maintain your child. So there's tremendous amount of suicide happening out there because of the pseudo moralism. Instead of preventing something that unwanted to happen, allow it to happen, and then have to commit even a more serious crime. Okay.
On
Yeah, now we're gonna start on cruelty. Just a minute.
cruelty. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Is cruelty linked to the instinct of destruction? It is the instinct of destruction in its worst form. Because while destruction is sometimes necessary, cruelty never is. It is always the result of a wicked nature.
Okay.
Wow.
So we're going to look to define cruelty here and as a treatment that causes suffering or pain to others with an act with the objective, with the intention to cause pain, cause suffering to others. Okay? And cruelty, although it seems that we talk more of a physical cruelty, the cruelty could be emotional, could be mental, could be psychological cruelty that happens all the time. In this question, Kardec makes the statement, instinct of destruction. And again, we spoke before that instinct is something that belongs to the physical world, something that is for us here, right? So the instinct of this destruction is a part of the makeup of the physical life. Self-defense, you just stored here, is part of this instinct of destruction. I must destroy to survive. Wars, unfortunately, just covering this world that we live, sometimes is necessary. It brings us freedom, as we just covered it last week with Jerome. Unfortunately, this world that we live, it's still necessary. But even in war, just like that, talk about that, there is no room for cruelty. There is no room to have a desire to cause pain, suffering to others. You have to kill. That's one thing, right? Even this is not just as a comparison, because again, I want to expand too much the word cruelty here, but you have a great problem, and it's being worked today, cruelty to animals, even to animals. Now you have you're more likely to go to jail these days for cruelty to animals than cruelty to humans these days. right? As we are paying attention to unnecessary suffering, cause unnecessary suffering to anyone with the intention, acting on the intention to cause pain, acting with the intention of cause suffering, being it physical, mental, emotional, psychological, and in any other way. There is no room for that in the instinct of destruction. This is just evil. Is just plain evil, right? This scholar always a result of wicked nature.
Yeah, and these days with social media that you can hide behind the screens and behind the computer, it's insane.
The amount of cruelty being yes,
That's true.
and you can project that cruelty now to all 5 continents in a matter of a second. Anyone can be a receiver of cruelty these days.
What would you place cruelty in the continuum in the continuum of destruction? Could it? It's not. Is it really the opposite of destruction? If destruction is kind of positive to an extent, because there's no need for cruelty in destruction.
Um,
Is the other side the opposite of destruction? I don't know. I'm trying to place it. I'm trying to place it in some kind of a.
no, I don't think so. And let me see if I can make my point here.
I understand it, but I'm trying to place it somewhere within the framework of destruction. It's not the pinnacle. I don't think it's the pinnacle. It's the top. No,
No, I think we need to separate from the instinct of destruction as
it's
being
something separate. Okay.
because because the destruction is necessary, the rebuilding is necessary. If the destruction can be equal to law of renewal,
Exactly.
right? There is no room for renewal for cruelty in or for renewal in the cruelty. There is no room for it. It's
Okay.
it's outside.
It's outside of the destruction continue.
So
Okay.
if I need to kill to eat, and I go out there and I hunt and I kill a deer, and I use what I know, a gun and shoot to kill, and I kill the deer, and I consume that meat. It's destruction I need, right? Now I go out there. I don't need to kill to eat. I can go to supermarket and buy me whatever piece of meat I want. But I have the pleasure of killing. I kill for a pleasure. That is cruelty.
That's cruelty.
That's cruelty.
Yeah.
Right. You can also sport. Also sport of unnecessary destruction. Right. You go to the wood and you destroy a tree. You kill a tree to build a house, to build a boat, to bring firewood in the house for the winter. Necessary destruction. You go out there and you destroy a forest because you don't like trees. Cruelty. There is no room for that in the law of renewal. There's no room over there. You go into war and you need to kill the enemy to survive, to kill the enemy because that's what you are there for. You do it, it's one thing. But then you find an enemy on the ground injured, and instead of or killing an enemy, put it out of his misery, or helping, having mercy, taking care of it, you torture that individual, start to set a fire on his toes, whatever you choose to do, just to see that individual suffer because you are angry, because you don't like that individual. That's cruelty. There's no room for that in the divine laws, because again, the law of destruction is a divine law, and you can't imagine cruelty as being a part of something created by God. There is no
Right.
for that.
Yeah.
You go up
Thank you.
there, you fish for your own survival. You are a fisherman for your own living. But then you toss dynamite under the sea just to make it your life easier.
Yeah.
I see it as a cruelty because you're gonna kill everything.
Right. Yeah, so I don't think there is room for cruelty inside of the law. That is pure evil.
Yeah. Thank you.
Next, well, let's do the next one because the next one clarify more this topic.
Okay. Why is cruelty the dominant characteristic of primitive humans? Among primitive peoples, as we call them, matter overpowers the spirit. They surrender to their animal instincts, and as they only care about their physical lives, they think only of self-preservation. This not only makes them cruel. In addition, people whose development is still imperfect are under the influence of imperfect spirits, with whom they attune. Until more advanced people arrive and destroy or weaken that influence.
Yes. So they surrender the animal instinct. And I was trying to find situation in Animalia, in the animal kingdom, in there is that kind of cruelty. And if you define cruelty is to harm others for your own benefit. So yeah, there is some kind of cruelty in the animal world. There is the so-called those insects, parasitoids, right? Those insects that they lay the egg inside of another insect, and then larva develop inside of the insect, and the larva goes eating that animal from the inside up, for the inside out, right? It's very cruel. It is cruel, right? When, yeah, parasitoids. When an alpha lion is defeated in a battle for dominance of that group, and he lost that battle, and he's kicked out. No, he cannot no longer be a part of that group. The first thing that the new alpha male does is go find all the babies and kill them all. It's pretty cool, right? The lionesses will defend and protect the cubs, but usually the male will kill, and then those same lioness will mate with that guy that now will carry his own gene. It's pretty cool, right? But there is not the intention of causing pain. There's not the intention of seeing someone suffer. So I don't think in the word cruelty is really in the animal sense. There is the cruelty that I mentioned here as a mean of doing two things that we need to do over here as an instinct that we have over here. One of self-preservation, right? Survive. And two, the perpetuation of our own genetic pool. It's two things that you want to do as animals, Okay? And as we spiritualize ourselves, we find means to continue to have those instincts, but we love doing that without being cruel, without causing harm to anyone. Okay? So, on the spirit side over here, that amongst primitive people, as we call them, and that is another thing that we have to think about the word primitive. What is the primitive here? You know, among us, let's say, the simple people who live, they need to hunt, they need to fish, they make a prayer, so to say, to that animal, to the spirit of that animal they kill, they give thanks to that divinity for allowing them to kill that animal for their own survival. Is that really the primitive one? Us who go out there and hunt for and for sport, go fishing for sport. I fish for sport. Just make sure that whatever catch I eat, just to be safe. And I want to catch what I can think I can eat as well. But who is more primitive here? The one that still lives from the land, the one that still does not have the technology that we have, that still don't know how to use a cell phone, but respect nature, respect the environment that they live in, or us? Who is really the primitive? Who is the civilized here? So even the word primitive over here needed to expand and be careful with this word here. But taking a primitive as still a very stage of spiritual development where the instinct prevails over reasoning, we will be doing things because we have the need to have dominance and have the need to display our dominance. It is the case of the alpha male lion. I mean, or you protect your position and you fight for that position, or you'll be defeated and you'll be kicked out. And amongst us, at one point in our existence as a primitive beings, that we are more in that or spiritual development, that we were closer to the animals and doing whatever we need to do to be the dominant one, in the position of dominance, because or you are the dominant one or you are nothing, basically. Right? You just basically survive. You're not going to have opportunity to reproduce. You're going to be the last one to eat, if you got anything to eat, and all those things. So you have that desire to be stronger, to be better than others. And that leads to cruelty in some occasions, to maintain your position and to display your power, so nobody will mess with you. And if you don't do that, your chance of survival it gets becoming a lot smaller, and the chance of reproducing and perpetuate on genetic, no, not gonna do it. And because you still have that animalistic instinct, rather than reasoning, rather than moral advancement yet, we may commit some acts that may be considered cruel. But then again, is that cruel with the desire of enjoy the pain of others, or is the desire to survive, a desire to be dominant? It's two different things. So what I'm saying here is that I think this cruelty, as we see cruelty as something absolutely deplorable, requires some degree of intellectual development deprived of moral qualities. You have to be intelligent enough to create that thing to torture others, to cause pain to others. And of course, you absolutely lack moral qualities.
How about when agents want information from people? Is that considered to be cruelty?
And that by torture, we
Yeah.
get information? Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
The information that they can get from it to save lives.
One mean does not justify the other.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, yeah, the means does not does the mean the end, the means does not justify the end, right? I mean, we see now, let's say, for example, today of the killings of people in a boat, that they call it traffickers killing drugs. They're being murdered without an opportunity to self-defense, without having an opportunity of, they really, somebody's saying that they are trafficking drugs. Are they really? They disappear in the ocean. Nobody will be able to in civilized world, criminals have that right of self-defense. They have the right of a lawyer, right? The same thing with the torture here. I mean, I have the right of my silence. If I do not want to speak, I will not speak, right? And we do not have the right to take this word of mine out with torture. That's not right. That is cruelty. Even if what would come out of that mouth would be beneficial to the society, even if. Because an error is still an error. And if you justify because it's for a good cause, then you perpetuate that error and makes it permissible. So, and it is up to us in civilized world, make sure that, no, this is not allowed, torture is not allowed in any situation. Even if the words would benefit someone, it's still a crime, right? To kill someone without giving them, accepting it of self-defense, without giving that individual that you consider to be a criminal a right of defense, a right of a lawyer, is a crime. But if it continues, then it becomes permissible. And individuals with no moral quality should not be agreeable to this kind of things, because then it becomes just matter of fact. Right? I mean, slavery has always been a crime, but at one point everybody was compliant to it because it benefited the production of sugar, because it benefited the production of of coffee. So it was okay, but it's still a crime. And we still were paying very seriously for this crime that was committed during that time. The results of slavery was good. Country was built based on slavery, on the back of slavery. That was still a horrendous crime. So you cannot justify the means because of the ends. Crime is a crime. Went over 2 minutes. I'm sorry. Thanks, Paco.
Pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. So let me take the final prayer. Close. And I give thanks to God our Father for the opportunity of this stimulating discussion. We give thanks for the inspiration, the guidance that we received throughout the studies. We ask to continue to receive the guidance, the inspiration of our spiritual benefactors to help us to apply all the teachings received here in our daily lives to the best of our abilities. Asking our Master Jesus Christ to accept us as a humble servant, guiding and helping us to spread his teachings with our behavior, exercising charity, benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness towards ourselves, and equally apply the same benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness to all our brothers and sisters who walk with us in the path that leads to our happiness. May we be protected for the weak. May we be prudent, vigilant with our thoughts, with the sentiments that we brew in our hearts. And we ask permission to close this meeting. Just before I go, remember next week, we are closed. Thanksgiving. Okay, we'll be closed, and we'll be closed the following Sunday as well. This Sunday, we are open. We're gonna have our Q&A, bring your questions. Okay, but then next week, Thursday, we're not gonna have our meeting for the studies of the Spirit's book. And Sunday, we will be closed as well. Okay? Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.